Let's go. We are live here on YouTube. Last time I came to you guys shirtless was last year after Ohio State, and Tim pointed out that I had my name as sad shirtless idiot. This time I'm still shirtless. I'm still an idiot, but we are happy because Penn State holds on to beat Minnesota 26-25. So many things that we can talk about, and we're going to talk about them all. But Tim, just give me your thoughts, man. Give me your thoughts.
My initial thought, okay, as someone who was a teenager in 1999 when Minnesota kicked a field goal to end Penn State's BCS title hopes on homecoming, I just want to go back in time and tell myself it's going to be all right, younger Tim. So I feel like we've finally exercised like 25 years worth of demons of being a top 5 team playing against Minnesota, because you had 99 and then you had 2019, which also did not end well. And frankly, I would be lying if I told you I didn't feel like this iteration was going to end up the same way for the longest time. I think my optimism started to increase after that fake punt run on 4th and 1, which I'm sure we'll get into as we discuss this game. But for the longest time, just with the way the game started and with the special teams miscues early on, and with several players, I mean, Anthony Donko goes down, starting offensive lineman, just a few plays in. I mean, I felt like a bad omen at the time, and it sure seemed like it for quite a while. But kudos to the team, kudos to the coaching staff. Just they faced every bit of adversity possible, it seemed, and yet they came out with the win. And I'm not entirely sure if this is a playoff caliber team, but you know what? Good teams find a way to win games like these. So there's a saying over at my favorite college football podcast, A Solid Verbal, and that's win your clunkers. And they won an absolute clunker of a game today in Minneapolis.
Yeah, this was, the definition of a clunker. And just, I feel like when you go through these games, right, like so many people in the first half were saying that, everything it felt like was going against Penn State's way. But yeah, it's like, okay, well, Penn State also had like the kind of phantom defensive pass interference call that they took advantage of. They had the Dom DeLuca interception. So definitely don't want to say that it was like, oh, everything was going against their way. But right, it was one of those games where you have a point after block that's returned for 2-point conversion. You have the blocked punt where Riley Thompson just seemingly took his time and acted like nobody was rushing there. So some of those just like self-imposed in some sense. But yeah, that first half was dark. And I don't know about you, Tim. Like I generally, you're a pretty optimistic guy, and I would say I'm generally on the optimistic side of things as well. And it's easy in hindsight to be like, during the USC game I wasn't worried, or during the Wisconsin game I wasn't worried, but I can confidently say, like, I did not think Penn State was winning that game. It just felt like it felt like that they would come in the second half and just, I don't know, just something would go wrong. And even towards the end, it felt like, and I know this isn't like a 1-for-1 comparison because it was a little bit different of a game, but it almost felt like 2008 Iowa, where Penn State has the lead in the fourth quarter and they're holding on to it, but it just feels like Minnesota's going to get the ball back and they're going to kick a field goal to win it as time expires. Let's talk about. We can go in a bunch of different directions with this, and I almost think that like you should host this because I'm so scatterbrained. I had to tweet for BSD and I did an absolutely terrible job. Half the time I was just like doing all caps and going all over the place. But let's talk about that Luke Reynolds fake punt, and let's in particular James frickin' Franklin.
Big balls, James.
If I just want to say, and then I'll hand it over to you. Right? If they don't get that fake punt, he's an idiot. Because he got it, he's a genius, and that's just how it works in sports. But what a call. Like, it was a good punt or a good fake punt, because even I thought, not that I'm like, a football genius, but I never thought that they were going to go for a fake punt there. And when Riley Thompson jumped up and acted like the snap was high, I thought the snap was actually high. So they fooled me, and they clearly fooled Minnesota as well. So Tim, fake punt. That goes in the pantheon of all-time great Penn State moments, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And I mentioned this before you hit live button, but on the highlight video that commemorates this season, we're watching it 5-10 years from now. I think one of the first plays they'll show is that fake punt run by Luke Reynolds. And I'm with you, Pat. I did not think they were going to win this game. I'm thinking to myself, oh, goody, 3-and-out. We're going to punt. They're going to milk clock and set up for a game-winning field goal, and it's going to be like, 99 all over again, or that 2008 Iowa game, And so, man, I was very pleasantly shocked that they not only faked it, but they also, got a huge gain out of it too.
Oh yeah.
I'd also could have gotten stuffed potentially if guys don't throw their blocks properly. That again, can't emphasize how huge that was. Penn State had a fresh set of downs. I think got down to Minnesota's 40 or something like that, or maybe further. But there's under 3 minutes to go now, and now Minnesota's forced to start burning all its timeouts. So, that kind of helped set up for them to run out the clock ultimately. But yeah, I didn't think we were going to win that game until after they got that fake punt conversion. Then I started to think, all right, we got a chance to milk some clock, or at the very least, even if they, I don't know, let's say they didn't convert a fourth one, at least Minnesota, they have the ball inside their own 15 with less than 25 seconds and no time.
Well, let's actually talk about that. Did you want them to go for that? Because I
did.
Okay.
I absolutely did. End the game if you can right there.
Sorry, I just want to say, I know that we're all scarred with the point after attempt being blocked. If Penn State didn't have their PAT blocked prior to that earlier in the game, right? If they had just been blocking normal, do you think?
Oh, it's quite possible they just kicked from that situation. I don't know. I haven't thought in my head what the score would have been at that point, but yeah, if not for that blocked extra point that Minnesota took back for 2 the other way, perhaps they just kick right there. But given those circumstances, though, I think it was absolutely the right call to go for it. And of course, I don't know what to do. I was thinking wait, what are we doing? Drew's standing there in the pocket, and I'm like, what, is he going to take a sack or something? But then I see he's got Warren wide open, so he just plays a little pitch and catch of him, and so Tyler Warren once again, MVP of the game, maybe along with Luke Reynolds.
I thought for sure on the fourth down call, I thought for sure that they were going to just try to get and jump off sides, take a timeout, and then maybe they go back out and they actually try for it, but you at least tried to get the jump off sides. But once I saw Vega, they put him in motion. I was like, I don't know if they would be. I guess you're committed to it. If you want him to actually jump off sides, make it look like you're actually going to run play. So you have Vega going in motion. But I think I would have kicked the field goal. Yes, there was. I'm just stumbling all over the place. Yes, you had only 25 seconds, and Minnesota would have had to go 50 yards to even attempt a field goal. But 50 yards is a lot different than going the entire length of the field if you get that field goal and kickoff. So, yeah, that's just it. Like I said before with the fake punt, because it worked, it is a genius move. And if it didn't, people would be – Penn State probably still wins, if we're being honest. But I'm going to have to go back. I only watched that play the one time. I can't imagine that Tyler Warren was the first read on that. It seemed
I don't think he was, but I don't know who the first read would have been. But
I think maybe Dinkins. It seemed like a play action like Dinkins, because that just feels like the Dinkins type of play where he only catches fourth and shorts and touchdowns. But for Drew to, like he said, evade the defender and find Tyler Warren, he was incredible. Jess, hold on, go. I just read the Jess one. Hold on, Jess. No, shirts don't go back on. Not yet. Thank you, Bennett. Shirt stays off. Love it. And yeah, no, top 10 teams wanted it. This is a
shirtless patch that we promised you guys. Remember?
Yes. I have been saying that once we got to 100 subscribers that I would do a shirtless show. And I think this is just like the football gods and the podcasting gods being like, oh, we are going to get a shirtless Pat show because we're making this the most miserable 3-hour experience of my life. Where do we go from here, Tim? Let's talk about – or here, how about you? Where would you like to go? You can be the captain.
I'd say I'd say maybe we want to talk about positions, or you want to talk about just the quarters, how they went, or so I'm trying to think how to approach
Well,
this.
okay, let's talk about. I mean, let's talk about that first half just in
The
general.
first half, okay. Let's have the first half. So obviously, yeah, that first half, not good, Bob. Um, spotted Minnesota 10-0 advantage early on. Defense did start to settle down a bit. And they, you had that beautiful, I think that, that deep touchdown pass from Allard to Amari Evans, I think really got some momentum going, at least, put a little confidence into Penn State's offense because they were looking kind of sluggish before that. So that definitely helped. What did not help, of course, was with a tie ball game at 10-10, they let the ball bounce inside their own 5-yard line, go 3 and out. And then Raleigh Thompson just takes forever to punt the ball and ends up getting partially blocked and gives Minnesota tremendous field position in the red zone for Penn State. And I think the very next play was a flea flicker pass for a touchdown. So, that momentum just felt like it went back to Minnesota. And then lo and behold, here comes the Andy Kotelnicki special, quick strike down to, just quick couple minutes offense to score a touchdown. Drew Howard runs it in, ties, or I think we're about to tie it up at 17. But of course, somebody totally screwed up on the left side of the line and blocking their guy. A guy comes through untouched, just gets a piece like Dikembe Mutombo's Ryan Barker's extra point attempt, and then Minnesota scoops it up and takes it for 2 points the other way. So instead of thinking we're going to be tied at 17 and a half, all of a sudden it's 19-16 Minnesota at the half, and I'm thinking, yeah, we're not winning this game. This is not a playoff team. Like, this team just keeps crapping all over themselves in the biggest moments. So I was not feeling good at all after that first half, especially the way it ended. I don't know. What were your thoughts, Pat?
Not good. Not good. I mean, like I said before, that was I feel like I was more confident even during the USC game when they were down 26. I felt like I was more confident during the Wisconsin game when they were down, 10 to 3, 10 to 7, 10 to 3, 10 to 7, 10. I don't remember this.
It was I think it was 10,
17-10, 17-10.
17-10.
Yeah, I think. Or was it 10-10? 10-10.
I'm sorry. No, I think it was, I want to say, no, you know what? I think it was 10-6. Or no, 7.
10-7. It was 10-7. 10-7. Confirming now 10-7. Sorry, we're going all over the place here. Either way, point being that it just felt like one of those games. I mean, I said it before, that reminded me of like Iowa 2008 and just how Penn State. Now, the defense ended up they did settle in, but greatly was worried by Minnesota being able to run the ball more than Penn State was able to run the ball. I feel like that's usually just a good way that you can kind of, especially in a game, a Big Ten West ugly game like this, where you can probably just about be sure that whoever runs the ball better is more likely to win. Penn State defense did a lot better in the second half of stopping Minnesota's drives and stopping them from able to run the ball. But yeah, the first half was not nice. I see that we have a comment here that you start, which I want to bring up. Defense gets a D+. I understand that they weren't great. It was not, I mean, we had the Tom Allen first drive special that we haven't had in a while. So we'll at least
I bump it up to at least a C because of that fake punt alone. What really pumps that grade? I mean, yeah, if we're just grading the first half, I give special teams like a D.
No, I'm saying for the defense, not special teams, defense.
Oh, defense to D. Oh, defense gets a D+. That's way too harsh. I mean,
and it would be an F if they didn't get. It would be an F if they didn't get the turnovers. That's yeah. If they didn't have the big plays, they didn't play that well. I agree on that. I guess if they didn't have the fumble recovery, if they didn't have the interception, that's kind of how it all works. Again, I'm not saying that they had like an A grade or anything like that, but other than that first drive, they were pretty good, all things considered. I mean, they give up the touchdown that's off the punt, but that's a short field, and that's a tough spot to put your defense in. And honestly, let's even give, I don't know who it was, if it was Jalen Reed or if it was Sakeem Wheatley, when the Minnesota wide receiver gets shoestring tackled right before right around like the 6-7 yard line, which he could have scored a touchdown. Minnesota takes the lead instead. It's 1st and goal, and the Penn State defense, holds their ground. They stand. They force Minnesota to.
How huge was that in
Go for a
retrospect?
field goal.
I mean,
if you're Minnesota there, it was 4th and goal from around I want to say around the 6 or so. Do you go for that? I mean, now in retrospect, I guess it's probably an easier decision to be like, yeah, let's go for it here, knowing that you need more than a
there
field
was
goal.
still over 6 minutes left at the time. So I'm sure Peter Fleck was thinking he would get the ball back, which didn't end up happening. That was, I mean, hindsight's 50, but like, for 2020, whatever the quote is, but I'm sure Fleck was not thinking that they wouldn't get the ball back again one last time. So, so I think, I'm sure if he'd go back, he probably would have made the same decision. And, at the time I thought it was actually the right decision. Cause I mean, it's like, you just get a stop. If you get the ball back, you just got to kick a field goal to win the game effectively. So I get it.
No, I get it. I don't think that there was like a right or wrong decision there. I just know as a Penn State fan, I was kind of hoping that they would just go for the field goal. I didn't want them to go for it on 4th and goal. And maybe that's just, again, being a Penn State fan and just kind of how the day went.
I was feeling the same way, Pat. I was hoping they would kick.
It felt like if they go for it on 4th down there, and I understand that this is like bias.
Probably do some trick play, which who knows?
It just feels like they get a back-breaking touchdown there. It's like, oh, God, man, now we have to go. Not that I didn't have faith in the offense, because that almost makes, just with the way that Penn State struggled to run the ball, if they're trailing there, it's a lot different. But I mean, it all worked out how it's supposed to work out, at least from Penn State's perspective. Let's talk about. Let's focus on some players, and then we'll take like a look, just like big picture wise, kind of what this game all means. But let's take a look specifically on some players. Interesting, Drew Allery. He finishes with 244 yards. He was 21 of 28, 1 touchdown. Did not have any turnovers, no interceptions. Ran the ball, I mean, decently well. He had some sacks, which affected his rushing yardage, but he certainly was able to tuck around a little bit. But a bit of an up and down game. Certainly,
I was watching touchdown in the first half.
Yeah, certainly not the. I want to say that he almost looked like 2023 Drew at times with how he was, sensing pressure, and not that the offensive line did a great job. It seemed like specifically that they were bringing blitzes from like the weak side with like corners or safeties, and Penn State just wasn't picking it up. But it felt like Drew was just not completely, I wouldn't say locked in, but wasn't firing on all cylinders in that first half. Were you thinking the same thing, Tim?
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously the O-line didn't help. And yeah, as far as, I don't know what I grade them, it's probably not going to be any higher than C, I would imagine, when I'm putting these together. But, and may even C might be a bit generous, but probably looked at times. But, yeah, his O-line didn't help. But he also, Drew was kind of off target on some of his throws. He looked like 2023 Drew at times. And I remember, in the second half, I think it was, I want to say it was at some point in the game. I remember they had a series that I don't think they ended up getting any points off of it. They ended up punting, but
the pooch punt series.
Yeah, it was that. And I remember, I think Drew was just furious on the side, and James Franklin, they showed like the CBS broadcast showing like Franklin just, sitting in front, just talking to him, just trying to calm him down, get him to, and whatever Franklin said to Drew, I mean, it worked because he looked like the Drew Aller we've come to know and love this season for the rest of the game.
Not that I'm a lip reading master, but I do believe that James Franklin, at least he said the word poise, and I believe he said the word calm at some point. So I think it was hey, relax. A lot of time, I think we can all guess kind of what he was saying, but
I'm sure he would have said, I would have guessed he said something around the line.
Hey, you got to be poised. You got to calm down here. A lot of game left. And to Drew's credit, and really the Penn State offense in general, they come out of that after the pooch punt. Penn State gets a 3-and-out defensively, and I'm just bringing it up here. They had a 5-play drive for a touchdown, which was, I mean, once again, Andy Kotelnicki, I hope he's back next year. But right, whenever he applies for jobs, this series is going to go down for this is what I want to do, because it was a Drew Aller pass complete to Tyler Warren for 12 yards. Then he hit Tyler Warren for 8 yards. Then he hit Tyler Warren for 10 yards. Then Nick Singleton ran it for 15 yards. And Nick Singleton ran it for 12 yards. Just like a beautiful 5-play drive with a short field. They got the ball at the 43, so it was only under 60 yards. But getting the ball to your best player, Tyler Warren, and getting the ball to Nick Singleton as well. Let's bring up Bennett's comment here. Talking about players, is Catron okay? Look kind of off. The bigger picture thing with Catron, and maybe he is battling some sort of injury. I do think that in the first half, he just didn't get snaps, or sorry, not snaps, but didn't get a carry, just how the game kind of flowed, because he wasn't for his normal series. It's just at the end, because Penn State had 2 back-to-back 2-minute series, that it was Singleton when it usually would have been Catron if they weren't in 2-minute. But as far as Catron goes this year, it does seem like he just, he's always been like a power back, but he has been able to make guys miss at times, or at least run through tackles. And I just don't know if he has, I don't know if he put too much weight on, if he doesn't, it just doesn't seem like his feet are as quick as they used to be. Because there were a couple plays that if he, and Singleton too, if they're able to, break one extra tackle, that it's probably going for, 20 plus yards, and he just wasn't able to make it. But yeah, it was a struggle fest for Catron today. He had 7 carries for 10 yards compared to Singleton's 13 carries for 63 yards. Where are you at with Catron and Singleton? And not to make this episode about like which one do you prefer, but their freshman year, I was kind of, I like both of them. I was more Catron last year. Obviously, he was much better. It does feel like that Singleton is kind of back as being the guy, and I almost feel like the large majority of the time I would rather have Singleton back there than Catron, which is pretty crazy to say given how well.
That's how I'm feeling too. I mean, at this point, I hate to say it, because I mean, I like Catron. He's had some pretty good moments, but yeah, I don't know what's up with him right now. But Nick Singleton obviously looks like the more complete back, from a speed and power standpoint. So it feels like he's the guy you need to run. But I understand, Jaywan Sider wants to keep his rotation, keep everybody happy. So you're going to continue to see Catron Allen, whether you like it or not. And hopefully he'll bounce back next week against Maryland, have a couple bruising runs like he did last year against them, maybe drag some guys into the end zone like he did last year. I was kind of hoping maybe they would throw in a little bit of Corey Smith at one point, just to maybe get a spark going in the ground game, because obviously it was garbage time. He ripped off these huge runs, but I feel like he's got a nice burst himself. So
he does.
Maybe 1 or 2 plays with Corey Smith.
I feel like so much of, and this is to kind of defend Catron in some sense, but I feel like a lot of Penn State's struggles running the ball aren't so much on the running backs themselves. And yes, if you're as good as Singleton and Catron are, you would like to see them, make guys miss a little bit more often. But a lot of that comes down to the offensive line just not getting the push that they were, to begin the season. I'm still kind of treating this whole game as celebratory, but when we go back to rewatch and you'll do position grades for BSD tomorrow, I think where the rushing game has gone and where run blocking has gone is going to be a question that it would be nice for Penn State to figure out. It felt like they kind of found it a little bit against Washington. I mean, Purdue was its own thing, but it just doesn't feel like they're generating the push in the rushing game the way that they were to start the season. So hopefully that is something that they figure out. Shout out Steve, former Onward State great. Shirt is off indeed, Steve. Shirt is off indeed. Let's talk about Tyler Warren, Tim, if you're okay with that, who was also magnificent on the day. 8 catches for 102 yards. He had a couple carries as well. Actually, both carries did not go for first downs, which is like, I didn't know that. I thought the Tyler Warren play, like, it just went for a first down every single time. So didn't like that. Did not like seeing that. But Tyler Warren was great. Thoughts on Tyler Warren, Tim?
I mean, I'd say he's one of the MVPs of this game, just for that catch on 4th and 1 alone to ice the game late. I'd say him and Luke Reynolds should be here co-MVPs of the game, frankly. Reynolds with the fake punt run. So, that one drive, that first scoring drive of the second half. I mean, I think the first 3 plays are just, they keep feeding Warren. Somehow he's like open. I don't know what Minnesota was doing. They were doing a good job of, keeping him in check in the first half. And then he just starts, I guess Koenig drew up ways to spring him loose. And he was a big part of why that drive ended in a touchdown. So, he was, stats say it all. And, he was just, I would have liked to see him smash his way to a first down on those runs, but, maybe Minnesota was quite prepared for that. So
Yeah.
I guess I can't be too upset about that. But, again, he had a really solid game, and I will bang the drum. He needs to get an invite to the Downtown Athletic Club in New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony next month.
CBS started saying today. I mean, Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson were saying that he should be a finalist.
I think I saw that. Yeah, I think I remember hearing that.
Yeah, which I mean, they were, they saw the USC game, they saw the Purdue game last week, and they saw today. So they have certainly seen, not that Tyler Warren really has off games, but they have certainly seen the best of him. So yeah, I mean, it would be very cool for him to get that invite. So we'll see if that happens. I think one of the things, right, you mentioned that Tyler Warren, that first half, specifically the first quarter, he didn't have any receptions, didn't get his first reception until the second quarter. It did feel like Drew started to do a better job. I mean, again, like we were saying before, he was a little bit up and down, felt a little bit like 2023 Drew at times, but he was finding different guys. He found Harrison Wallace, Trey Wallace for 4 catches. You mentioned before the Amari Evans touchdown. Nick Singleton with 6 catches out of the backfield. Also, Liam Clifford had a grab too. So, just using the whole field, getting the ball around, and it's easy to double when Tyler Warren is making all the catches. But I feel like Penn State did a good enough job of at least not making it so obvious that, oh no, we just want to throw to Tyler Warren. That as the game progressed, he was able to find some holes, and that's the part of being, whether it's a good tight end or good running back or good wide receivers, that you only need 6 plays a game where you can kind of change things. And yeah, I mean, Tyler Warren is breaking news. Tyler Warren is a very, very good tight end, and Penn State is lucky, very lucky to have him. Where do you want to go from here, Tim? Should we talk more? I feel like we should talk more about James Franklin, just overall this team in general. I mean, you mentioned before how they've lost games like this in the past, and we talked about the 2008 Iowa game. We can talk about the 99 Minnesota game, the 2019 Minnesota game as well. It just feels like, I don't know if this team wins in the playoffs, right? I like to think that they can win and Beaver Stadium. We'll see what the matchup is.
Depends who they draw, I guess.
Yeah. But I mean, I do just want to say that this Penn State team has done a great job of just winning games. I mean, beating USC, beating Wisconsin, winning this game. If you put those 3 games into, some sort of algorithm, and what are the chances that Penn State wins all 3, it's not very high. So it's a testament to their, belief. And as Bill O'Brien said back in the day, I mean, they're just a bunch of fighters. Like they do not quit. There was no quit in that Penn State team today. They think that they're the better team. And when you have that belief against, a team like Minnesota, just fortunate that it came out that way.
Once again, they exercised some demons, from, again, the last couple of times Penn State was top 5 playing Minnesota, they lost. So, they finally, ended that curse. And, the USC win, I mean, they avenged that, blowing a 2 touchdown 4th quarter lead in the Rose Bowl to them. Wisconsin was more like just one of those games where, the team just doesn't look so hot. They're letting the underdog hang around for a while, but they ended up salting that one away in the end. So, yeah, just this team just has something in it. They find, the Ohio State being the exception, and I think that's just more because James Franklin just has a mental block of Ohio State. But
Ohio State's very good too, apparently.
I mean, they are really good. I mean, I'm not taking anything from Ohio State, but when you get up 10-0 like that early on, I mean, to just let it all dissipate so quickly wasn't good. But I digress. This team just has something in them. They have a way of, when their backs are against the wall, they just come up with ways to come up with a win. And, I think teams of years past would not have done so.
Yeah, so it's a little 2016-ish with the way that they're, a second half team. Now that team was like oh no, we just are going to come out here and score like 5 touchdowns in the second half. A little bit different than how this team goes, but still have this team, they haven't allowed a touchdown. The defense has not allowed a touchdown in the third quarter, which continues on. They only allowed a field goal in the third quarter to Minnesota. So
actually, they kept Minnesota out of the end zone in the second half.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for all the flack Tom Allen gets, I mean, and really, look, I think, I know that Minnesota 25, but 9 of those you can directly attribute to special teams. I mean, you had the blocked punt, which gave Minnesota tremendous starting field position. And then, of course, there was the, blocked extra point that got returned. So, really, I'd say the defense only gave up 1 touchdown drive for Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, it was like we said before, is it that Tom Allen special, just that first drive that hopefully, I mean, I don't want to see that anymore. I thought that we got it out of our system, right? Against Washington, against some other teams, they were able to not give up a touchdown the first drive, but Tom had to go back to his ways. But no, once again, I think the defense was, all things considered, like pretty good. I mean, it was just give credit to Minnesota. I mean, they were better than I thought. I will say that much, and I think better than you thought as well. This would have been like such a disappointing loss, just because of what Penn State was going to lose out of it by potentially.
They played like a team that had 2 weeks to heal up and prepare. And
which they, I mean, they do not. They needed to come out here and they needed to win this game. And I even mentioned about style points like mattering. So we'll see what the committee thinks of this game. I think that Minnesota's looked at like decently favorably overall with like FPI and like things like that. I mean, they're a 6-5 team, so they're certainly nothing to sneeze at. It's not like Purdue or something like that. Where do you think Penn State goes from here as far as rankings go? So I'll just read it out for you and kind of set the stage. Oregon will still be 1, Ohio State will still be 2, Texas will still be 3. So Penn State was at 4. Indiana was at 5. Indiana's gonna take quite the tumble. So then I guess the question is, does Notre Dame jump Penn State? And that'll take into account what happens tonight against Army for Notre Dame. And then you have 2-loss Alabama. So do you think anything happens? I mean, Alabama and Notre Dame literally are playing right now, or should be kicking off.
Yeah, I was just leaning over because my TV's on Notre Dame Army. They're up 14-0. It's like almost the end of the first quarter. But
Notre Dame's up over Army 14-0.
Yeah. So if they blow out Army, who knows? Maybe they jump Penn State. But then again, I wonder how much the committee's going to punish them for that one loss being to Northern Illinois, whereas Penn State's loss was, by a touchdown to Ohio State.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just don't think, I think Penn State will stay put at number 4, despite their struggles. I mean, they won, and then, Indiana got beat kind of handily, and Notre Dame, that's the only team I could potentially see jumping them. Like, I don't think Miami or.
At least this week. I still think that the SEC, whoever goes to the SEC championship, and they still have to play out their season because Texas can definitely lose on the road at Texas A&M next week. But if it's a 1-loss Texas versus a 2-loss Alabama, I think even if it's a 3-loss Alabama, I don't think that they're going to want to punish. I think they want to reward teams for making the conference championship, and they certainly don't want to punish them for losing it. So
right.
I still kind of think that the Big Ten loser will be the 5 seed, whether it's Ohio State or Oregon, and then the 6 seed will be the SEC loser. So that puts Penn State at 7. We'll see what happens with Notre Dame, though. I guess it's a tough conversation to have as the game is happening. But if you're saying that Notre Dame is up 14-0, that would be. I mean, it would be an impressive win to beat Army, even though I don't know how good Army actually is. I mean, they're 9-0, so credit to them for that. But I guess this is a conversation for a different day. We can talk about it when we get the rankings coming out on Tuesday. I'll be live streaming again, so make sure you guys are following along for that. Tim, anything else? I mean, let's give a shout out to Zan Durant, who was great tonight, 2.5 tackles for loss. Kobe King is such an underrated linebacker. He also had 1.5 tackles for loss, but it just feels like he's he's always in the right spot. He's coaching the defense out there. Really is prepared. So shout out to him.
Tony Rojas had a decent game.
It did feel like Rojas was pretty good. Yeah, a bounce back game. I feel like he's had some games that weren't so good. Aldo Carter, not great. He didn't really do much of anything from what I
which is surprising. Perhaps he was more. If he was more like his usual self, maybe this isn't as tight of a game.
Yeah,
ultimately, but to still pull out the win despite him having a quiet game is
yeah. And Minnesota does have a first round left tackle that he was going against a lot of the time, but still, if you're Abdul Carter and you're probably an All-American at defensive end, you like to see him at least make just one sack, something like that.
Yeah, Sorgi Porgy and Ole Miss also. So they're pretty much out of the playoff picture at this point.
Yeah, and you like to think that as far as like when the committee gets together and they have those discussions that they talk about the fact that Ole Miss went into Florida today and they lost, whereas Penn State went into Minnesota and they were able to come out with a victory, right? So you compare those situations, like we've been saying, at some point the games and the results have to matter. Winning, like the difference between winning and losing, is like a big piece to it. So I mean, I literally just yesterday, Tim, I put a future on Ole Miss win a national championship. I've been saying on multiple of these my playoff reactions that Ole Miss is a team that scares me the most. I think they're the best team, and look what happens. Look what happens. So yeah, at some point, I mean, you need to win your games, and Penn State is winning their games. They beat USC, they beat Wisconsin, they beat Minnesota. So.
By the way, a couple more defensive shout-outs. Dom DeLuca had the interception early on, which set up a field goal.
Great job,
and Zakee Wheatley had a fumble recovery, which set up another field goal. Of course, it would have been nice if they had cashed one of those in for a touchdown, but still it made the difference in the end. So shout out to those guys. But Penn State won a turnover battle 2-0, and I think you and I talked about this in the previous show back on Wednesday, but. Minnesota came to this game averaging 1.5 interceptions a game. They have 16 on the year. And, even though Drew looked shaky at times, he did not throw a pick. So you got to tip your hat to Drew as well. I mean, I'm sure Minnesota, is chomping at the bit to try to pick him off, but, Drew didn't.
I do want to circle back to Drew because I feel like we didn't have a complete conversation about him, but right, we were saying that he was kind of, a little up and down 2023 Drew, but once again, when it actually mattered, like Drew came through in that second half. We saw him, like you mentioned before, like kind of throw a tantrum on the sidelines. He had to be cooled off, but came out the next drive, got a touchdown. Like you said, didn't make those backbreaking killer mistakes, even if he was a little inaccurate at times. And yeah, picked up. Specifically in the second half, was able to turn negative plays and keep them positive, even if it was a 4-yard rush or something like that, or getting the ball out or dodging somebody that's coming in to sack him. You wish that he was a little bit cleaner today and a little bit more crisp, but overall, I mean, just a really good job by Drew. So just want to make sure that we do give him proper credit. Certainly not saying that he had a bad game whatsoever, but made the plays.
Maybe not an A game, but certainly like a B plus level game.
Yeah, made the game when it mattered most. And I mean, that last play was right. I think a lot of quarterbacks there maybe get scared and they just drop down, thinking that, all right, I don't. My first read isn't there. My second read isn't there. There's probably going to be pass rushers coming. I should get down rather than to get this ball smacked out. And he was able to keep the play alive. And
I think I'd probably give it a B plus for quarterback.
Yeah. I think he came together. So, yeah. Any other thoughts, Tim? Special teams.
We're 10-1. You got Maryland next week, a team that James Franklin relishes in beating up on. So that's all you got left. I mean, you just got to take care of business here. I mean, Maryland just lost today, and they're 4-7 now, and out of bowl contention. So who knows how up they're going to be for next week's game. I'm sure they'll maybe want to play spoiler to their rival. I'm using air quotes for you just listening, but I'm sure they love to play spoiler, but also I can see them, if Penn State gets up on them a couple scores early, they could just go into quit mode and the route could be on. So,
I will
but
say,
Hmm.
sorry, I'm just going to say after today, I am not taking any game for granted. Not that I
I'm
thought
not
that this
saying
would
taking it for
be.
granted, but I think
Yeah,
this is a game where you would hope Penn State comes out focused. You know, you had that close call today at Minnesota. You're just hyper focused on beating Maryland, securing that 11-1 record and that home playoff game.
yeah. I once again, I feel like I've seen a lot of people on Twitter after the game be like, Penn State just clinched their playoff berth. Like, please settle down.
Yeah,
Please
let's
settle down.
I mean the grounds crew is kind of playing with fire by resodding the field. I don't know if you saw Pat, like they're
Yeah, I
redoing
did.
the turf at Beaver Stadium in anticipation of a home playoff game. I think Josh Pate on his YouTube show was saying how that was like counting your chickens before they hatch. So
That's probably what Greg Sankey told him
another
to say.
comment about you being shirtless, Toby Prime. That's because when we hit 100 subscribers, we promised that Pat would do a shirtless show, and he just either by virtue of him forgetting or just other circumstances, it didn't happen up until now. Today was a perfect excuse for him though to go shirtless for a wild and crazy game like this one. So there's your answer.
Yeah, to explain the shirtless thing, even beyond well, last year when we used to do a show on Mark Rogers' YouTube channel, and I came on shirtless after it wasn't the Ohio State game, it was the Michigan game. It was after the Michigan
It
game
was
I went shirtless.
Michigan.
But
Yeah.
I've been doing the shirtless tweet is I have to go back and actually look. I don't know what I've been doing it since like 2016, 2017. Basically, Penn State makes a really big play in a game that's really important, and I either scream and yell and get the cops called on me, which happened in Iowa 2017, which I take great pride in. But shirts come off. Yes, tarps off for the boys. Shout out Toby. I believe he was an Onward Stater as well. So shout out to my Onward State people. I think we're just about done, Tim. I am.
We I know. I think there's so many thoughts just circulating through my head, and I don't know how else to regurgitate them than what we've already done here. I think just like you guys, we're gonna maybe sign off and just bask in the glory of this win and the playoff hopes still remaining intact for another week. And then just of course, we'll see what the playoff rankings come out on Tuesday. If what the committee does as a result of today's game, if they punish Penn State and drop them a spot or two, or if they keep them at 4, that's probably the only drama I think.
Yeah,
coming up right now.
Tonight we bask in glory and we have fun with this win. But I know James Franklin after Wednesday's practice said, no infighting between the SEC and the Big Ten. No, James. James, I don't tell you when to do fake punts. Don't tell me when I can yell at SEC people on Twitter, because Josh Pate and Feinbaum and Heather Dinich and all these other people, they have declared war on the Big Ten, and someone needs to fight for the Big Ten, and that's going to be me, and specifically Penn State, because I actually don't care about the Big Ten. I only care about Penn State. But I do want Indiana to make the playoff too. Yes, shout out Onward State, baby. So yeah, it's great time. I am just very glad that this is a celebratory podcast, and I didn't have to come on here because Tim, I
had a full rant prepared. Thinking
boy.
we were going to lose this game. Like I was going to rip into everybody and talk about how we're not a playoff team, truly a playoff team, and all that.
I was not going to go full like fire James Franklin mode. Like I'm not that crazy. But man, I would have said some things I would have regretted, but we don't have to regret because Penn State wins. As we said after the USC game when I was on with Ellie, we are not apologizing for victories. We are not sorry for winning games. I know that the SEC doesn't quite understand that because they all have 2 losses and they think that you can lose 2 games and you still get invited to the playoff because it's, oh, look at us. We're the SEC. You just have to be in the SEC, you make the playoff. Penn State, we don't think that way. We're about winning here, winning the games, not getting 2 losses and sneaking in. So, yeah, beautiful, beautiful game. And Tim, as you said before, you have Maryland coming up next week. That's a home game. Yeah, I don't ever want to play Minnesota again. Minnesota is creeping up there into like going on the road to Iowa territory for me. Of like,
I still want to play them as a top 5 team again. Like we destroyed them they destroyed them a couple years ago in the whiteout.
Yeah, I mean at Minnesota. At Minnesota.
Oh, at Minnesota. Okay, I get you. Yeah.
Oh no, we can play them in Beaver State.
By the way, just little history note, that was the first win at Minnesota since 2010.
Matt McGloin.
Yes, Matt McGloin had made his debut there, came in for an injured Rob Bolden, I believe in the second quarter. And I think one of his first plays, there's a little play action bomb from midfield for a touchdown. And the legend of McMoxie was born that day.
The electric kid from the Electric City, the West Scranton gunslinger himself, Matt McGloin. Yeah, I'm all done talking. I need a cigarette and I need to lay down, and I just want to enjoy this victory. So that is what I'm going to do. I'm sure that's what Tim's going to do as well. Make sure that you are subscribing to the podcast. If you're not subscribed right now, subscribe. Honestly, it doesn't it'll let you know when we go live, but let's be honest, even if you don't care about that, you can still subscribe. It's not like it's not like you're going to get buzzed on your phone or something. You barely will even recognize that you're subscribed, but it will help us. So make sure you're subscribed.
We're at 136 subscribers as of now, Pat. So I think we might have gained a couple more since our previous show.
If we don't get 140 subscribers, I want 4 more subscribers from this video. If you don't get 140 subscribers by Tuesday's episode, I will not be a happy camper, and I will yell at you guys. So make sure you're subscribing. Make sure you're liking the video, because if you like the video, then it helps with SEO and YouTube actually showing the video to people who are searching out for Penn State. Thank you, Orgy Porgy. Great name. Orgy Porgy, I guess it is actually.
I don't know what it is. Orgy Porgy. Maybe that's Orgy
Porgy. Thank you. The great Orgy Porgy. The subscriber of the week, Orgy Porgy. All right, Tim. We're signing off. Thank you guys for watching. I'm going to go put a shirt on, and Penn State is 10-0. We will see you next week.